So this is your stumping ground, Mr. Ori?
This is my territory right here. Cannon Drive, Beverly Hills, California.
So you heard it
the
from the man
Montage
himself.
Across the street, R.I.P, Giuseppe Franco, all these restaurants.
So you guys heard it from the man himself, man. Everybody go down, go support, go purchase, go download, go get my man's book, The Accidental Gangster, from insurance salesman to the mob boss of Hollywood. So what's next? Are you going to dabble into films or?
Well, I'm involved in a couple films that hopefully are going to get made soon. I have 2 writers writing a TV pilot. I have producers that are interested. People have offered to option my book. I'm not optioning the book. If somebody wants to come in and buy my rights for a good $1, then we'll talk.
Are you talking to any networks, any big events?
That will come. That will come. There's a lot of interest out there, but I've been around this town, like I said. Actually, right here, and I'll show you. This was the first office of Dino De Laurentiis. He did King Kong. He did countless of films. It's all in my book. Dino De Laurentiis. This was his office. And when I walked in that office in 1971, he was sitting there getting a haircut. He had his barber. That's how I remember Dino.
What's a normal day for Mr. Ori?
A normal day for me is normally I'm up by 4:30 a.m. in the morning, and have my coffee, smoke my cigarettes, which I know I should stop, and then I take my walk, get my coffee, normally at Rite Aid, now that they got the espresso machine working, and then I go next door to Giuseppe Franco, there are a couple guys, and then I walk home. And then I get home and it's work.
Right.
This old man don't stop working.
The man himself, the legend. Like I said, everybody go support my OG. Go get his book. We're gonna push it to the top. Especially if you from LA. You have to support. So once again, I want to thank you.
I want to thank you folks. I thank Stanley. I wish you gentlemen the best. Support this young man. He's going places.
We're here in the neighborhood of Beverly Hills, and I got the legendary Hollywood mob boss R.I.P Spado with me, and we about to really dig down deep into his book, his newest title, The Accidental Gangster, from insurance salesman to mob boss of Hollywood. Dealing with the mob, especially the mob in Hollywood, is it going against the code for you to be writing a book?
I don't say anything bad about the mob. I say good things about them, and I don't say anything bad about anybody except for maybe 2 or 3 informants. But other than that, I don't say anything bad, and I don't really talk about Mafia in Los Angeles, because although I was very close friends with the underboss of the Los Angeles organization, Jimmy Cacci, he and I were like brothers. But primarily, I'm a New York guy. I was born in New York. I lived there, but this is my home. You know the old saying, you can take the boy out of New York, but you can't take New York out of the boy.
When you came from New York to Beverly Hills, California, what other people were you dealing with or knew?
I began dealing with people in the movie industry. Dino De Laurentiis, Ralph Serpi, people like that there. We became close. Actually, Dino's first office was a block down here on Cannon Drive. And through that there, I got involved. I met a lot of people, heads of studios, and then before you knew it, people were calling upon me to handle different situations. It could be with the agency, actors, actresses, drug problems, a lot of different types of issues that would pop up, and I was able to sit down and remedy the problem without a gun and talk sensible to the individual involved, and they understood. When I first moved here, the weather was even different. You didn't need air conditioning in the summer and heat in the winter like you do now.
Right.
It was much cleaner. You didn't have the homeless problem. And it was an entirely different situation. It was a good scene. Being younger, of course, I was out at nightclubs all the time, and I never waited in a line. I don't wait in lines for nobody or anything. But that's a rule that I learned from Sonny Franzese. We don't stand in lines.
And speaking on Sonny Franzese, I know that's one of the closest, dearest friends of yours. How was the relationship with him? Besides all the other people you dealt with.
My relationship with Sonny is very good. We speak on a weekly basis. However, he's 103 years old now. He's in a nursing home in Queens, New York. He was in the hospital last week. I'm not sure whether he's out or not. I wanted to go back and visit him, but I spoke to his probation officer to try to get permission. And probation officer was actually very nice about it, but when she talked to the supervisor, they turned me down because, hey, number one, we've been friends for so long, and number two, we were on the last indictment together. So I have to wait until June to visit Sonny. That's when he's off.
So I don't want to give too much. I don't want you to explain too much of the book. But when you came, you started off as a salesman, insurance salesman. So how did you transition?
No, I was an insurance salesman back in New York. I was out here for a short while in 1971. Then I went back to New York. Then I came back.
So how did they give you that label of the boss, the mob boss of Hollywood, as you transitioned from insurance salesman?
Well, you're going to laugh about this here. It was just maybe a persona that people thought about me, and that's what people were saying. But when my dear friend Jimmy Cacci's brother, Charlie Cacci, but his name everybody knew him as Bobby Milano. He was a singer. When he passed away, they had a service for him in Cathedral City. I had saw him the Saturday before he passed away. And I was in New York when I got word that he passed away. So they had a one-day service. The boss of Los Angeles sent two guys to pay respects, and they had a message for Jimmy. Because Jimmy was close to me. I didn't give a shit about the boss out here that they called the boss. And the message was that he had to talk to me because everybody thought that Spado was the mob boss of Hollywood. So that came directly from a guy who was the boss. And it seemed like it stuck. When we got in prison and when I finally got transferred to Lompoc, there were 15 of us getting out the bus from Victorville. I was the last guy in the line. We're chained and shackled. You gotta go through a little area. And there's a big bulletproof window with guards behind it, and you gotta give your MA number and your name. When it got to me, the guard said, "Everybody, take a look at that elderly gentleman in the back. That's Spado, the mob boss of Hollywood from the Colombo crime family." And I said, "What the fuck? Am I in Disneyland or in prison?" That's what people think. I never was a boss of Hollywood. I was a boss of me.
So when the streets gave you that persona of the mob boss of Hollywood, did it drastically change for you before you had that title?
It didn't change then. It's not going to change now. I am who I am and what I am. And it's all in my book, The Accidental Gangster.
So can you explain a lot about your time in Lompoc? That's the federal prison, right?
That's federal prison. I didn't particularly care for Lompoc. There was only 2 other Italians in the yard besides me. And,
but you know, steaks, like how they do in the Mafia, like in good fella, like cooking steaks, and had your own whole, like all the Mafia had their own setup in the prison?
We did that in Brooklyn. I spent 30 months in MDC in Brooklyn, and at our table, obviously, our table was all organized crime guy, and at that time there were a bunch of guys from all the families. And yes, we cooked just like you see in the film there. What was it, Goodfellas? Yeah.
And they had to bring the onions and the steak and the...
Yeah, everybody gets their own thing. You got to hook up with the kitchen. I'm gonna tell you, Thanksgiving, Christmas. I mean, some of the guys, they made pies like you couldn't get them in a bakery on the outside. We ate well there.
So,
and then in Lompoc, a lot of the guys cooked for me. I was well respected. I had no problems. Got my mouth shut, did what I had to do my time. When you're in prison, you only got one thing to do your time. Keep your mouth shut, stay out of anybody else's business. I never thought that I would write a book, but because I'm an avid reader, I read over 300 books in prison.
And speaking on avid reader, what's the top favorite books you read? What does R.I.P. Spado's library consist of?
Michael Connolly, Daniel Silva, Baldici, I like CIA thrillers. I particularly like Daniel Silva because he writes with fiction and non-fiction. And they're quite books. I'm reading one right now called The Other Woman that he wrote. And I read a lot of different books.
And since me being from Long Beach, I heard you had a lot of dealings and a lot of works with the Queen Mary and the rap scene in Long Beach.
Yes, I did.
Could you elaborate on that just a little bit? Because I know you have it in your book.
Yeah. Well, Queen Mary, I did all the entertainment for him. I brought all the entertainment for the Queen Mary. I brought the Titanic exhibit, Marilyn Monroe exhibit, the Treasures of Russia, the Bob Marley exhibit. I actually produced that. My company did. The World of Reggae featuring Bob Marley. I had Wyclef Jean come down. I was very close friends with Danny Sims. And for those of you who don't know Danny Sims is the guy that actually discovered Bob Marley and had first publishing agreement with him. And it's all, you can Google it and find out anything you want on that subject. And I brought rap groups, I brought entertainment, any kind of entertainment, I did it all.
He was friends with...
C Styles in Long Beach.
C Style.
Yeah. Bunch of the guys down there.
Jack from hang with Tupac, Jack the Ripper. Not Jack the Ripper.
Haitian Jack.
Haitian Jack.
Really don't like to talk about Haitian Jack. He was a rat. He worked for the FBI for a long time. I happen to know a lot of guys that went away, and I feel it was a result of Haitian Jack.
So
I took Haitian Jack in as a courtesy to Danny Sims and Wyclef Jean.
So elaborating more on the rats, especially in this time and age, where rats is being glorified and not being conducted of their business. How do you feel about that? How do you feel about rats? So I know in your books you had a couple of informants that ratted on. Do you feel like rats is being glorified now?
In what way are they being glorified? A rat's a rat. He's a scumbag.
And I mean as opposed to where people could go and tell on people and have another person do some natural time and still walk the streets as if they're that guy.
That never would have happened in the old days. Things have changed. They don't do that any longer. Whether to come back or not, I don't know. None of my business anymore. I'm out of it. You know, it's the legal system and the way it works. Okay, it's okay if you got an informant, you're going to use an informant, but don't use the informant to set you up in a crime that you weren't going to do. Now that's wrong. You had no thoughts, no idea about doing that crime. That happened to me on a cocaine conspiracy. I was facing life in prison. I had no thoughts, no ideas, or no wishes to do cocaine. I did send a lot of marijuana to New York, I'll tell you that much. But not cocaine.
So how was your experience in the Army? Did it shape you like to push you more to the crime life, to the Mafia, or is that where?
I'm going to tell you something, and it's my belief. I enlisted in the U.S. Army, and I believe that we should have never done away with the draft, because when they got rid of the draft, I firmly believe the crime on the streets increased. What the U.S. military does, and people want to talk about Omerta and the Italian, the Sicilian Mafia and this and that, but you learn discipline, you learn loyalty, you learn respect, and you learn that if you go on a mission, it's a secret mission. You sign papers, you're given a secret clearance that you're screened for. And you never discuss that, no matter how long afterwards or what. Sonny Franzese was a Colombo crime family.
So Sicilian?
Huh?
What is that, Sicilian?
Well, Sonny's actually Napolitan. I'm Calabrese. The Calabrese Mafia and the Sicilian Mafia are actually two different mafias. Actually, the Calabria is bigger than the Sicilian, but the Sicilian is better known. The Calabrian Mafia is called the Androgata, and they work primarily in other parts of the world, and they got more money. But the Mafia is the Mafia, no matter which one it is. You know, you got the Napolitan, the Camarora. The most I've ever been worth was legitimate business when I was in my insurance business way back. On paper, I was worth $12 million at one time. That was back then. That was a long time ago. And then my first indictment came, I lost everything. You know.
And how did that feel, going from the top all the way to the bottom and starting over?
Very tough.
Did it make you?
But the government made me become what I am. They took away my insurance license. What choice they give me? I got to earn. I got to earn. I got a lifestyle that I'm accustomed to living to. And I did it. Had to do what I got to do. I have a saying, you got to do what you got to do at certain periods of time in your life.
So could we expect a part 2? What's next?
My next book is called My Journey Through the Judicial System. It's going to be quite different. It's going to be more along the lines of how law enforcement works, how crooked they are, what the laws are, more about prison reform. And I sent a letter and a book to the President of the United States, Donald Trump. And I just got a nice thing back from them thanking me. And in that letter, I did thank him for what they began on prison reform. And when I say began, it's just a small thing that they did, but it's big. And needs a lot more, because in the United States, we got more people in prison than any other nation on earth. And with these laws that we have, the guys doing marijuana, and you know, everybody wants to say that there's more blacks incarcerated than any. That's true. Absolutely true. And I know they just, a lot of states are changing the bail reform so guys could get out if they got no record and so forth. But if you take a look at the guidelines that they have for possession of marijuana, cocaine, any kind of narcotic or anything, it's crazy. And who did that? That motherfucking Joe Biden. He wrote the worst crime bill in history. And I can't understand, and no offense to you, my friend, why the blacks are supporting this guy. They don't know that. He wrote the worst crime bill in history. Bill Clinton and Hillary signed it. Hillary was also involved in that. Do you remember that? 1992, I think. The minimum mandatory. I know that my judge would have given me less time if I did not have a minimum mandatory sentence. He had to give me 60 months on a gun charge. And I didn't have a gun in my hand. I was not even at the scene. They had me as the manager of what took place. And they don't even know if it was a real gun or a fake gun. But an informant said he saw me give a gun to somebody else. I did 5 years, minimum mandatory sentence. Thank you, Joe Biden, Bill Clinton. Okay, the heroes of our country. All right, people keep voting for prosecutors. Why are you going to vote for a prosecutor who's accustomed to putting people in jail and make them the President of the United States? But this goes along with the educational process that we have in our country today. California, I remember, used to be #1 in education. Now we're down on the bottom. Who's done that?
Right.
Well, take a look at the history of this state. You can get me going when you start talking about things like that. All right?
I'm learning.
Now I'm going to tell you something else. Last June, the U.S. Supreme Court found that the 924C gun charge is illegal, and what was the other word they used? And that all charges should be vacated. Now, a friend of mine in prison is the one who informed me. He gets out March 5th. He was on my indictment. He was the youngest guy on the indictment, and he's still in, but he caught another charge while he was there. But, so, and then I read about it, and I saw it on the news. So I wrote my judge. I thought, well, if the U.S. Supreme Court says it should be vacated, then by all means it should come off my record. That's a violent crime. So I wrote my judge. It wasn't a motion or nothing. I said, I read the news, I saw this. I'd like to get it off my record. I mean, I've already finished my supervised release and everything. I'm not on paper. A month later, I get a Federal Express from the U.S. Attorney's Office, Elizabeth Geddes in Brooklyn. I read the first page. It says, Mr. Spado's charge should be vacated. I get upstairs in my apartment. That was in the mailroom. I get upstairs. I read the rest. On the last page, it said, in the event that Mr. Spado's 924C is vacated, as it shall be according to the U.S. Supreme Court, then we hereby bring back charges 1 and 10. I said, what the fuck? If they vacate that charge, they're going to bring 1 and 10, which was RICO and cocaine conspiracy, facing life in prison. So I wrote to the judge. I said, hey, look at it. I wrote this letter without the legal advice and so forth. Next thing you know, he gets me a lawyer, and I get a call from a lawyer. And I said, how could they do this? He said, what's your plea agreement say? I said, well, it says on this page that if it should be vacated, they could bring back the charges. I said, but the next page, it says those charges are dismissed with prejudice, meaning they cannot bring them back. What page do I listen? Oh, don't worry, they're not going to put you back in. I said, don't worry. I said, your name's not on the fucking paper. Mine is. Well, you got to be back here February 4th to go to court. I said, I ain't coming back. Forget about this fucking thing. I don't give a shit. It's not going to change my life. I just thought it was a simple procedure. Take it off. But they wanted me to go back to court, and then the U.S. attorney wanted me to sign a new plea agreement. I've been out since 2013. I did 4 years supervised release, which is more than they normally give. It turned out good because in that 4 years I wrote my book.
So, with all that you have been through within your amazing life, would you do it all over again? Or would you do anything different?
Like I said, you have to do what you have to do at certain periods of time of your life. Would I do things differently if I knew what the future? Perhaps I would. But, you know, it is what it is. I am who I am. I don't deny it. And I don't advise it for anybody else. I hope that one person, if I can keep one person from getting in a gang or getting involved in life, then the book was well worth it. It served its purpose.